Hi there, Raul here with another video. Today I'm covering the topic of sky replacements for stock photography. Photoshop's latest release has a powerful new feature that simplifies the sky replacement process. I decided to create this video to share with you how you can use this powerful new feature to improve your stock images, but more importantly, increase your sales potential. Perhaps you have a bestseller image that has experienced a decline in sales over the past year. Or maybe you have an image that you expected to sell more, but it has fallen short of your expectations. A realistic sky replacement might be an excellent strategy to give your images a fresh look that will help drive new sales and then catapult those images back to your bestseller category. I'm going to share with you some before and after looks of some of my stock images that were greatly improved using the sky replacement tool. Generally speaking, sky replacements work best for landscape type shots. However, you can still use the feature for people portraits, but I would only use it in select circumstances. In general, buyers will look for images that have clean backgrounds and have copy space available for their marketing edits when a model is required in the image. They don't want anything to divert the focus away from the subject or the copy that will be added to the image. Therefore, I believe sky replacements will be most beneficial for nature and landscape type stock images where the central theme is nature itself and not an individual in the image. However, sky replacements can be used for wildlife type images if there's a clean separation with the sky and the subject is placed in the foreground. I'll show you an example. I'm not a Photoshop expert, so I'm not going to cover the technical elements of the new feature in great detail. There's plenty of new YouTube videos that will cover those details. My focus here will be to show you how to take advantage of the feature to help you drive new sales in your stock portfolio. Okay, let's take a look at some of my stock images that can be improved with the sky replacement tool. My first image is a landscape shot that I took back in 2016. This was on a ranch in the Texas Hill Country in the outskirts of Austin. There's really nothing special about the image. It's a generic landscape of a ranch, and you've got this small windmill here on the left-hand side. The shot is primarily green with all this vegetation, and then you have a light blue sky. Unfortunately, there were no clouds that day, which meant most of the pics were fairly flat. So I really didn't expect this image to sell much, but I was pleasantly surprised when it did start selling. It has sold over 100 times over 4 years. It's definitely not a bestseller image, but it does consistently sell. So how can we enhance this image to improve its sales potential? Basically, we need a more dramatic sky here with some clouds. It's just way too plain. Let's see what we can do to make this image pop. So the new sky replacement tool is under the edit menu. It's right over here, sky replacement. And there's the tool. The tool has several adjustment options. Your first step will be to select the sky from the drop-down options. Photoshop has 3 folders under this drop-down: blue skies, spectacular, and sunsets. Photoshop will automatically default to the last sky that was selected. However, I recommend you create a dedicated skies folder and place your favorite edited sky pics in that folder. You can add a sky by clicking on this plus sign here, and then selecting the sky image from your sky folder. Your uploaded sky images will appear below the Photoshop sky folders. So right below the folders, you're going to see all your uploaded skies. It's important to note that when you're selecting a sky, you need to try to match the lighting conditions. So in this example, I need to select a blue sky that has some clouds, but not an overly dramatic sky. So let's scroll through our options and look for what appears to be the most natural. So it defaulted to this blue sky under the blue skies folder. So let's choose one of my custom skies. The very first one, that actually looks pretty good. The second one, I think it's got too much cloud coverage. The third one doesn't look too bad. There's a slight variation. This one wouldn't work because the clouds are way too low. You got this one, which is actually a sky that I took a picture of from the beach. in North Florida, in the Panhandle. And actually, it doesn't look too bad, but when you examine it closely, you'll notice that this particular sky image was taken in the late afternoon, close to the golden hour. This particular image was taken at 9 a.m., so it really wouldn't match. I think I like the first one the best. Yeah, I think that definitely looks the best. Now we can fine-tune the image. You have the option to shift the edge. You have the option to fade the edge. You then have some sky adjustments. You can adjust the brightness. You can adjust the color temperature, whether it's going to be warmer or colder. You can adjust the scale, which in most cases I believe you're going to leave at 100%. The next option is the flip option. This option can be very important if you want to accurately match the lighting conditions between the replacement sky and your image. What you need to do is to locate the direction of the sun. In this example, the sun is coming from the left. You can tell by looking at the shadow that was cast by a tree that was outside of the frame. So if the sun was coming from the left, it would make sense that the clouds would be lighter on the left-hand side, which is the case over here. You see the clouds are lighter on the left. So I think this sky replacement works perfectly. The last adjustments apply to the foreground elements. You have a lighting mode adjustment, which has a drop down for multiply and screen. There's screen, there's multiply, basically no difference. You have a lighting adjustment, which adjusts the foreground lighting. So if you slide it all the way to 100, it's going to darken your foreground some. I'll leave it at 0. And then you have a color adjustment from 0 to 100, which I really don't see any change whatsoever. So I'll leave it at 0. Once you're satisfied with all the adjustments, you have the option to output as new layers or as a duplicate layer. Before you output the sky replacement, you can preview the before and after changes by selecting this preview button. There it's off and it's on. Off and on. So I believe the new sky dramatically improves the image. So I'm going to choose the new layers as output, and Photoshop now will work its magic. Photoshop creates a group called Sky Replacement Group containing all the layers representing each of the adjustment categories. You now have the ability to further edit the image. For example, let's say the sky has some elements along the horizon that might need to be removed from that layer. You can easily do that by editing the layer mask in the sky layer. So I'm very happy with this result. We essentially have a completely new image. However, some agencies can be quite picky when submitting duplicate images. Shutterstock, for example, just might reject the image even though it's a better version. You can somewhat work around this issue by inverting the image. By simply going to Image, Image Rotation, and flip canvas horizontally, and there you go, it's inverted. So you now will have two versions of the image available for sale, whether you invert it or not. Let's take a look at another image candidate for sky replacement. Here's another image from that same ranch. This time we have some beautiful Texas longhorns in a field of blue bonnets. Here you can see them in the foreground. This image and the previous image was taken with my Tamron 90mm macro lens. The reason I used a macro lens was because I originally planned to photograph the bluebonnet wildflowers on the ranch. This was a bucket list item for me to capture the blooming bluebonnets in April. The bloom generally lasts about 3 weeks in April. Anyway, I had my 90mm macro lens attached to my Canon 5 DSR, so I decided to take some zoomed in portrait type shots with this lens, and I was very happy with the results. So back to this image, let's select a new sky for it. Again, we're going to go to Edit, Sky Replacement. It's going to default to my last sky, which was this one. That doesn't look too bad either, but I really want to use a different sky. So let's scroll down the list of options. Here's the second one. That doesn't look too bad, although again, I think it's a little bit, maybe too cloudy. Here's the third one. I really like that one. I think it's a winner. Let's see what else we can do with this. So again, here's the shift edge. Let's see what that does. See, it lowers or it increases the shift edge. So I'm going to leave it at around 0 because I think it blends in well. The fade edge, it's on 100 now, and that's 0. Back to 100, you see there's a little bit of cloudiness here. So again, back to 0 is fine. Under the brightness, you can make it brighter, darker. So I'm probably going to keep it at 0. Maybe just pump it up a little bit. All right, let's say 11. The temperature, make it warmer, colder. Let's make it just a little bit bluer there to match these blue bonnets. And then the scale I'm going to keep at 100. And again, you can flip it. And again, let's remember the direction of the sun. In this case, the sun was coming from the left again. So let's flip it. Let's see how it looks. Again, it looks pretty bright here. It might look fine in that direction. Under the foreground adjustments, there's multiply, there's screen. It definitely doesn't look good with screen, so keep it at multiply. And then it automatically did a lighting adjustment of 50. Let's put it back to 0. See how it brightened up that foreground. Put it to 100. See, it's way too dark. So let's keep it at 0. And it adjusted the colors to 35. I'll put it back to 0. I think that looks pretty good. Let's click the preview on and off. There it is. I think it's a dramatic change. It definitely enhances the image. However, if you look at the difference here, look here right through the oak tree. This was some trees that was introduced from the sky pick. So let me turn it off again. See, those trees aren't there. And also, if we zoom in, let me zoom in closer. Since this was a macro lens, you're going to have some depth of field fall off, and it's definitely going to be a lot out of focus in the background, and these trees are in focus. So I'm going to have to repair that, and that's an easy repair. All right, let's zoom back out. I think I like that. Hit OK. Photoshop does its thing. So in order to blur out these trees to make it out of focus with the same depth of field, I'm going to have to do some kind of a blur. So let's go to the sky layer, and I'm going to introduce a Gaussian blur. So filter, blur, Gaussian blur. It's about 8 there. Let me zoom in. And that's much better. See, it really put these trees out of focus. And it's almost the same as this. Maybe we make it a 7 instead. I think that looks pretty good. I'm really happy with this change. The original image has sold just over 300 times, and that was with a very bland sky. So I'm confident this new version will bump up those sales and give the buyers an additional option to consider. Okay, let's take a look at one more image. I captured this image in southern Switzerland on my way to a small town near the Italian border called Pontresina. Switzerland is absolutely beautiful. There are postcard moments wherever you point your camera in this beautiful country. This image is probably one of my least purchased images of the Swiss Alps. I have other images of the Swiss Alps that are excellent sellers. So I thought this one might be a good candidate for some tweaking. The image is of a valley with a small creek running down the center here. You've got the small bridge, and you've got these pretty wildflowers in the foreground. It's a little hazy, and the sky is that somewhat boring blue again. So let's see what sky replacement can do for us. Okay, back to the sky replacement. and it's going to default to the last sky. There it is. Actually, it doesn't look too bad. However, there are some trees left over from that sky image, so that doesn't look normal. Let's check this one out. It doesn't look too bad, but it probably isn't realistic, because if these clouds were here, you'd probably maybe see some shadows being cast over here. So definitely not as realistic. Looks pretty nice, but I would want to go with something a little more realistic. Let's check out the first one. I think this one will definitely work. Let's look at the direction of the sun. So you got these trees here, and there's a shadow being cast towards the left. So that tells us the sun is coming from the right, which means that the right side of the clouds would be a little more bright. All right, so let's invert it. Let's flip it. Okay, so if the sun's coming this way, it would make sense that these clouds would be brighter on the right. So I think it looks pretty good. Let's look at these sliders. The fade edge, move it to 0. Makes the clouds look even brighter. I like that. I'm not going to shift the edge. Let's look at the brightness. Can make it a little bit darker. It's not too bad. I'm going to keep the temperature that way at 0. Foreground adjustments. I like multiply. Darkens this area a little bit. Lighting adjustment to 0. All the way to 100. It darkens the background a little more. I think so. I like to maybe decrease that a little bit. Let's maybe make it 75. And the color adjustment again reverts to 35 here. I really don't see a difference with color adjustment. So I'm liking how this image looks. I think it looks great. So we started with this image with a very plain blue sky. And this image has sold maybe no more than 25 times. Now, with the help of the sky replacement tool, the image has now been completely transformed. We've breathed some life back into this picture, and hopefully we'll attract some new customers. We shall see. So what are your thoughts on this tool for stock photography? With the diminishing commissions in the stock field, you might think, is this worth my time and effort? Well, I think it is. If you already have a subscription to Photoshop, you might as well take advantage of the new features. Photoshop has made it extremely easy to use, so your investment in time will be minimal. We all have plenty of downtime when we're not shooting. Perhaps you haven't uploaded new images in quite some time. Perhaps it's time to look at your portfolio and look for images that can be improved. So here's your opportunity to use this tool to give some of your images a fresh new look and improve your sales at the same time. Thanks for checking out my video, and if you liked it, please hit that thumbs up. And please subscribe to my channel to give me the motivation to make more of these instructional videos. Okay, I'll catch you later.